You're listening to the Things You Don't Hear in Church podcast, a show where your hosts, Darian and Ethan, discuss the controversial topics often avoided by the church. They also discuss culture, society, and everyday goofs. And now, Darian and Ethan.
We are back.
Wow.
Live.
Wow. Amazing.
We're not live, but we're live.
You know, I'm alive.
Yeah.
And I'm
First time back in like 5 weeks.
live, yeah. Well,
Something like
first
that?
time, like, not, yeah.
Yeah.
Recording
Not
the
live.
same
We're
week.
live. Yeah. First time.
Recording the same week, yeah. I'm just like mentally like thinking. I was just been like stressed for the last like hour because this mic right here gave me so much trouble. So, oh man, but God's good.
Dude, I was thinking this morning about, because we're using this table. We're having a different setup today. It'll probably change a lot.
Yeah.
Again.
So, the office that we'd use, Spencer's office. If you watched last week's episode, you realized.
You know what Spencer is?
Yeah, you guys,
Yeah.
you met Spencer. That's fun.
Yep.
Also, you found out that, well, this is not his office anymore.
Yep.
So
It's now our office.
it's now our office.
Yeah.
So everyone watching from YWAM, you're not allowed to be here,
Yep.
except unless you have to ask.
Yep.
No, so they are using it for different various things. So we had to rig up a studio.
Yeah.
In an hour.
So we're using this table again. And of course, like our setup is way nicer now. We have two mics, we have arms now.
What you can't see is we have lights.
We have huge lights in the background. It
Yeah.
looks really nice. So this is probably the best setup we're ever gonna have because we don't
No.
we don't own like these things.
Bro.
I mean, like for now, like it's not gonna be.
We've peaked, guys.
Yeah, we peaked right now.
We've peaked.
And so I was thinking about this table because we're back on it, and then we recorded our first podcast on a table like this.
The pilot episode is on a table just like
a
this.
table just like this in a room across from this room. And I was thinking like the first time we hit that play button and like the record button and like how nervous like I was, and
it was
I don't
just
know about
weird.
you. It was weird, like we were just talking to each other,
to a
like
room.
recording, and there was no one there. We're like,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Yeah.
That was 27 episodes ago, 28
Wow.
or 7 episodes
Yeah.
ago. That's crazy. And like now, I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, I can't wait to get back on the podcast.
Yeah, I woke up, and then at 4 o'clock I remembered we have a podcast tonight.
Yeah.
I thought we were recording tomorrow.
I was so excited.
I've had my days all off. Yesterday I thought it was Monday. Today I thought it was Sunday or something, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like now it kind of feels natural in a
Yeah.
way. We're not experts by any means because we're only 27 episodes in.
Yeah.
But it definitely feels easier to get into it and get to the groove and whatnot.
It's like there's no hard part about it anymore. It's just exciting to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have some exciting news.
Well, first, welcome back.
Thank you.
Here's a handshake. I had planned to give you a hug, but this table's between us, and that wasn't planned.
Gary, I can't help but think that something's between us.
Something's between us. This table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Or like when you sit next to someone, like if you sit next to a girl, guys, if you sit next to girls and you want to weird them out, it's really fun. You just like, if you're sitting in church next to someone or in class, church, you just look at them and say, you know, I gotta say, I feel close to you right now. Physically. It's really weird.
You gotta get that pause. I feel close to you right now. Eye contact. Physically.
Yeah. It's like, hands down, will creep someone out. I've done it a number of times. Hilarious. At the stake of my reputation.
I don't think I'd do that, but that would be funny.
Okay, so my good news.
Okay, good
Fun
news.
news. I got a new mask. You can't. Oh, I hit the mic. Can't see it. But it
They
says.
definitely still can't see it.
I know. It says, this mask is as useless as my free will is to save me. Now, it's only funny because I'm not
it's a deep joke.
Yeah. I'm not a Calvinist. But
Not yet.
I like Calvinists.
Yeah.
Some of them are intense, but I like them.
Yeah.
They're like a nice older brother.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say older in the way that I look up to them because I don't look up to Calvinists in the way that I think I
The
wanna
ones
be
you
like
know.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the Calvinists I know. There's Calvinists I know that probably
Yeah.
would hate. Not hate because that's a sin. But it's funny because
Not always.
I do think masks are like pretty useless.
Hmm.
I told someone that and they went off, bro. I think they're useless. Okay, they're not useless. Factually not useless.
Okay. Backpedaling.
Factually, I just want to not backpedal, but I want to like give context. Factually not useless because they do something. Factually not needed
Okay.
in this pandemic.
In this pandemic.
This plandemic.
Yeah.
We can get a little bit political if we want on the show.
No thanks. I'd like to keep our listeners.
So everyone who loves this, I'm sorry if I just made you mad. We can have a conversation about it. If you message us on Instagram, it might be Derry messaging you back.
It will be.
Because I hardly do anything on social media now with that, which I'm super grateful for that you've like.
It's honestly really fun.
You love it. I was like,
yeah, it's great.
I do not like social media marketing.
Yeah, I love it a lot. Shout out to all the people I talked to on there. It's freaking a good time. I met some cool people.
Yeah.
People asking questions all the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll shout them out later, but.
Yeah, I don't know any of their names, but I've heard stories and like, God's been moving, guys. So
it's pretty cool.
Supporting the show.
He's touching a lot of people's lives.
Super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's try to talk at the same time a lot.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right
So we can
okay,
do it right now. Like what I'm saying.
The whole time.
But yeah. Okay. So I don't think masks are totally useless. I just think they're overrated.
Yeah. I was walking by a guy today, and I have different views on things.
Than me?
Yeah. But not about that. I just meant in general. I walked by this guy today, and this is the first time I've ever had any kind of feeling about a mask. And I walked by him, and they were running, and I was wearing a mask, and they were wearing a mask, and I thought, we look like idiots.
You were running with a mask?
No, I was walking. They were running past me. We both had masks on, and I was thinking if, like, 1 year ago me saw me right now, they'd be like, these guys are idiots.
Dude, what are you doing?
But
It's weird. Like, I walk into the store and I put a mask on, and I'm like, what kind of world do we live in?
It was just the first time I had ever
strange.
felt self-conscious about wearing a mask. And I wore a mask for my job when I was back home and all that kind of stuff. Like, I've worn them hundreds of times, and I never felt weird. But it was the first time I was ever self-conscious about it. I was like, I feel really strange right now.
It's just like a big damper on my beard.
Yeah.
It just pushes it down and mats it down. That's why I don't like it.
Yeah.
But I also don't like it because I think we're overreacting. But I understand we gotta be safe and care for those around us, and I understand all that sentiment. I don't like when people tell me what to do. So the government's like, you have to wear a mask. I'm like, I don't have to do anything, actually, constitutionally.
All right, last thing about this before we actually start talking
Just
about
ruined everyone's day.
the podcast.
Sorry about that.
My MVPs of this coronavirus thing that's going on are the old people, because old people are such G's. Like, all of the young people are trying their best to keep these older people alive, but these older people are like, hell no, dude, I'm not wearing a mask. Like, none of them. I haven't seen like a single older person wearing a mask.
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't care at all.
They're just like, mask?
And I'm like, hey, we're all doing this for you.
We're only here doing this because you're at risk. No one else needs this.
It's so funny.
And all the old people are like, I don't want to wear a mask. Why would I do that? Like, you're the only ones who need to.
It's pretty funny.
Oh, man. But yeah, it feels good to be back in Hawaii. It feels good to be out of quarantine. By the way, you and Spencer did a great job last week.
Thanks. I had a lot of fun.
I watched it, half of it, then fell asleep, and then watched the rest of half today.
Nice.
And thank you for representing me correctly in my opinions on integrating with technology.
You're welcome. You're wrong, but you're welcome.
Derry's correct in the way that he says it's the most disagreed about topic that we have in our friendship.
Yeah.
He's wrong in saying that he can integrate with it. Because I'm just going to say one
You already
thing.
do.
I know, but...
Gotcha.
No.
That's a
we're
gotcha.
talking about the how far you go with it. Okay. Here's my thing. I'm going to pitch this to you, and this is all I'm going to say on the matter.
Softball.
Because that was last week's episode.
Yeah.
And you guys can have this to think over. If you have a technology legs, like he said, legs to jump over a building.
Yeah.
If you have those, and it's tech, that means it has the ability to be hacked. That means you can be committing crimes or kicking old ladies without your will, and you have no control. And you're like, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to kick you. I can't control my legs right now.
It's true.
So that's all I'm saying. You're giving up freedoms that other people could hack and take from you.
But that's only if it has some kind of signal going out. Like, if it doesn't have any signal going out, then you're fine.
Oh, you
can
get it.
You can't. I don't think you can hack pacemakers. I think it's just an electrical signal that sends to someone's heart that keeps it going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it might be the same thing with someone's legs.
Maybe it's the same thing.
You might be fine.
Maybe it's not.
You're right. Maybe it's not.
But if
maybe you get the special legs that have Bluetooth, and so you can connect music to them because they're also speakers, and someone hacks them and they start playing.
Bro, if you get robot
all the
legs,
time.
I'm shooting you in your legs. I'm like, now I don't have to feel morally bad about it because they're not real legs. You're not going to bleed out. There's no risk.
Yeah.
It costs you thousands of dollars, and you'll sue me. But
don't do that.
biblically, you can't
Hey.
sue me, so
Don't do that.
I might.
It'll be expensive.
For you. Guns not.
I'll sue you.
Can't sue me.
Oh, you're right.
Bible says you can't sue
Yeah,
me.
I know. I know. Corinthians, I remember.
All right. Anyways, guys.
I'll get a pastor involved.
Yeah. Pastor will be like,
He'll make you say sorry.
buy him new legs. No. Okay. Bye.
Anyways.
We have a great episode ahead today.
Hopefully.
About pacifism.
Yes.
And if you don't know what pacifism is, we're going to define it for you, so don't worry about that. And the idea of what is pacifism? Should Christians be pacifists? Is God a pacifist?
Yeah.
How many fists should we pass?
Yeah. The whole episode is basically going to be about like how the 9 on the Enneagram is not biblical and no one should be that.
We should do an episode on the Enneagram.
We should. It'd be great.
I recently found out it might be satanic. And I might have to hate it, which makes me very sad because I have used it for so many. Next episode?
Next episode.
I only have a week to prepare.
I'm not going to prepare at all, so.
You're going to lose. It'll be like
It's an argument.
I'm assuming
I don't have a side.
I'm assuming that you will be for it.
Whatever position you take, I'll just take the other one, so it's fun.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I would win. Just
I think you'll lose.
we actually had an argument about it when I first found out. Like you're like, well, why is it bad, Ethan? I was like, well, this reason. You're like, well, what would that mean? I'm like, why are we arguing right now? I just woke up.
I don't know, dude. I just woke up.
I just woke up. I'm not trying to argue argument. Also, did you guys notice we have a new mics? I thought we mentioned the new setup, but I want to specifically
we got
mention the new mics.
We got new pad things. I don't know what they're called, but they're nice.
That's a pop filter.
Pop filter. We got arms
I don't
that
have
hold
a pop
the mics
filter.
up for us.
I don't
It's
have a pop filter because mine was being weird with it.
Yeah.
I could find it.
Anyways,
It's over there.
should we jump right into it?
Let's jump right into it.
All right. So the definition of pacifists or pacifism or whatever you want to call it, just for the sake of understanding, is one, a person who believes war and violence are unjustifiable for any reason, or someone that is opposed to violence of any kind for any reason. Is that clear enough for you?
So they hate war and it's never justified.
Violence is bad and you can never do it.
All violence is bad.
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder how they raise kids. They don't spank them.
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever
We
been
can
a
do
true
another
pacifist.
episode. We can do another episode about spanking kids.
Excuse me, I have to cough.
But you have to define what violence is, right? Like what technically is violence? Like is friction violence? You know what I mean? Then you can never wear jeans. Or
Why would friction be violence?
I don't know, because it's technically like two things colliding. Like I'm just saying, you have to define what
Okay,
violence
yeah. So
really is.
we can look up the definition of violence real quick.
I think you have to individually define violence for yourself.
That's not true.
Like, because you could say it's just violence for like person-to-person violence.
But
right?
there's a solid definition of what violence is, and people don't get to change it based on their opinions.
Yeah, they do.
No, that's how we get so many things about what truth is and what all this like. That's why we have so many problems in the
Whatever,
world
dude.
right now. Is because people want subjective definitions.
Whatever, dude.
Anyways,
But it's not an objective thing.
violence.
No.
I think it is.
No, it's not. I can be violent toward an animal, but I can also be. Well, I mean, technically
Yes.
you're an animal, but I can be
I'm
violent.
not technically an animal. I'm
Yeah,
the
you
spirit
are.
of God.
Yeah, I know, but an animal is just anything that eats living matter, and so you're an animal. And so
Is that actual definition?
yeah, that's actually the definition. I can look it up for you
That's
right
a,
now.
It's a weird tidbit of information you carry.
Yeah.
It's just definition of animal, just in case.
Yeah. Or like, and you know, when we think an actual animal, like you could hurt a cat, and that's technically violence towards a cat.
Yeah.
But like it'd be different than violence toward a human.
Right.
But what's the difference in those violences?
Okay, so let's make a definition of violence right now for the.
Yeah, you come
for
up with it. Top of the head.
Okay, violence
Off the cuff.
is any, I would say, aggressive, immoral action done against another
What about
living
no?
thing.
It could be moral. Still violence.
Yeah. Sucks. An aggressive.
Dang it! I was hoping that would work.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, you can have moral wars.
Want me to just Google it real fast?
Yeah, just Google it.
Okay. You keep talking.
Anyways, yeah, because we don't want awkward silence.
Yeah.
Or do we?
I actually couldn't type because I loved that so much.
Just felt super uncomfortable. So
Okay.
what do you have?
The definition of violence. It's a noun. Behavior involving physical force intending to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so like purposeful action to cause
Something of a
pain.
destructive nature. So that can be against anything living.
Yeah.
technically.
Okay, so should Christians be that way?
Yes.
Well, actually, that would be
Well, that
more.
wasn't my answer,
Yeah,
but that was-
well, that's not a
great.
question because that would be asking should Christians be violent. It depends.
This is such a deep topic. It's great.
Should you be a pacifist? So
Yeah. Should you be against war and violence of any kind?
Of any kind. See, that's where I have to say no. You shouldn't be against war and violence of every kind.
Save it to the end. Bro, don't say it. Wait.
He's telling me. Yeah, I'm gonna hear him whispering in his mic. He's like, save it till the end. Okay, so you want me to answer the question then?
Bro, it's a secret right now.
Then why did you ask me?
You can answer it.
Okay, I'm just gonna say no, and I'll explain later.
No, just say your thing.
Okay, I was gonna say, to a certain degree.
I think you're wrong. But
Okay.
Keep going.
So you should be a pacifist. That you don't.
No, I just wanted to.
I was gonna say you definitely agree with me.
Okay.
You should not be a pacifist in the way that you're totally against all kinds of violence, because some violence is needed to stop evil.
Like put jeans on. Yeah.
Putting jeans on is evil, so you should just wear
True.
shorts.
There you go. Especially in Hawaii or anywhere in Asia.
Yeah, unless you're in Mongolia.
That's true.
China.
Whatever.
Those are the two places acceptable.
Yeah.
If you count Russia as Asia, which in a way it is, Russia's weird, bro.
Yeah. Let's not talk about it right now. Talk about it later. Anyways, keep talking about what you think about violence.
Oh, I was done. I was waiting for you to say something in your piece. Because I don't want to say it all, because I thought we were waiting till the end to say it all.
I mean, I can go on a rant right now.
Go on a rant. I'll chime in if I need to.
I'm not gonna go on a rant, but I'll just like sling out some verses really fast of like what I think like definitions are and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound good?
Yeah. The Bible's
Okay.
always good.
So first, I think we should define like some different levels. Like we could look at, is Jesus, was he a pacifist? God, right? Because God's pretty much the standard for everything. And then we can talk about like different verses where we see like him being violent or not violent. Different verses to talk about peace versus war, and then we can look at like should we be pacifists with all the verses and information that we see, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna blow through some verses really fast. Don't tune out. Ready?
Okay.
Okay. So like with Jesus a pacifist, Matthew 5:38 through 44 ESV is a pretty good verse. It's a classic. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, it goes on from there. You should also give
it's
them.
the Sermon on the Mount, right?
Yeah.
Or the Beatitudes. One
Yeah,
of those two.
exactly. So it seems there like Jesus is advocating like far away from violence. That would be like one of the classic, like you should be a pacifist, like most of the time kind of verses, right?
On face value, but I
Yeah,
think
at face value. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's one of the classic verses that people will use
Okay.
to say,
Yeah.
hey, we're not supposed to fight back. Like,
Right.
like,
Love
hey,
your enemies.
like here, Jesus just says, like, if someone slaps you, like, you shouldn't, like, retaliate. They should, like, slap you on the other cheek, too, and be like, this one, too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so, one thing that I have to say about this is we can never make doctrines out of single verses, right? Like, people have
Why
done
not?
this. Hey, bro, why not?
Why not?
I have a lot of beliefs I like right now
Hey.
that I made out of.
Hey, I do
hey,
that. Hey,
don't say that.
don't ruin my life. That's how I live my.
Bro, I enjoy my sin. Hey, stop.
Every day I wake up and I find one Bible verse, and I build my whole day around that Bible verse, and I try to make it as weird as possible. Sometimes it's weird, like, oh, not gonna go there.
Not gonna go there.
Never mind.
Okay,
Joke's over.
so it's one of the classic verses that the people usually use, and then you contrast that with other verses like where Jesus is driving out the people selling stuff in the temple, right?
Yeah.
Right, and he's called a den of thieves.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and he's called
He's got
like,
a whip.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. He says like you've made my father's house a den of thieves, or
Yeah,
den
it's a
of
house of
robbers.
prayer, and you've made it a den of thieves.
Yeah, yeah, and it gets a 3-chord like.
Yeah.
That's the thing people make. They say that like this was a 3-braided whip. Like this was premeditated. Like Jesus is watching things like as he's braiding the whip. He's just like, okay, Oh, what's that, Peter? Oh, I'm just braiding,
braiding. You know,
I
like it.
hanging out. These evil broods of vipers.
Yeah.
Just working his whip, and then
Yeah.
he goes off. Well,
That's awkward.
that's awkward. That's real awkward.
The audio cut out, or it didn't cut out, but one of our mics failed, so We had to cut out part of the podcast that we had recorded, and we're just doing one mic now. Sorry, the audio was great for the first part, and now it's not so great anymore.
Now it's like subpar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone knows anything about audio, or Audio Technica AT2020, you can
Hit us up.
You can message us. This is what was bugging us earlier, and we had a big problem with it.
Yeah.
So.
Anyways, we were talking about...
You're about to talk about what a centurion is.
Yeah, a centurion.
I read that whole passage about the centurion.
Yeah. So Jesus is talking to the centurion. Another verse we can go over is a centurion is like a soldier, a commander. They're in charge of 100 people, right? A centurion. And Jesus says he has great faith, right? When he comes in with this problem. And this would be a great opportunity for Jesus to say, hey, like, tell your men to lay down their swords, or like give up violence, or don't go to war, or something like that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't address it at all, right? And there's another part where Peter is doing the same thing, talking to soldiers, and these soldiers are like not good soldiers. They steal from the people, and instead of saying like lay down your swords, like don't be soldiers anymore, he says, hey, stop stealing from these people.
Yeah, be
right?
honest.
Yeah.
Be good, integral people.
Yeah. So the point is, he doesn't call them to not be soldiers anymore. So their job is war, technically, and
Right.
being prepared, like protecting their country or going to war.
But yeah, it involves like, if possible, war.
Yeah.
Not if possible, if necessary.
Yeah, if possible.
Hey, we're gonna go to war.
If we go to war, that'd be great. Yeah. Another verse that we brought up before we cut the audio off was Jesus, and when he was about to be crucified, or not crucified, when he was about to be betrayed,
Yeah.
he tells his disciples, hey, like you guys got some swords? And they're like,
And you brought the swords, right?
and they're like,
Don't forget the swords.
they're like, yeah, we got 2 swords. And he's like, cool, bring those.
Yeah.
We're going to the Mount of Olives. And he goes, they're like, all right, sounds good.
He never asked for swords before.
We're going to pray, right? Why are we bringing swords?
Is this because we fell asleep last time?
Is this a prophetic act? What happened? And so
What's he doing?
they bring some swords, and then there's the whole encounter with cutting the ear off and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so it's another instance where Jesus is like, he's asking them to bring these swords, right? He's not condoning the violence that happened. In fact, like he says,
Like when Peter cuts off his ear.
yeah, he says to Peter, like, you shouldn't do it, but it doesn't say the act is bad. Like, Jesus initiated them bringing the swords in the first place.
Right.
And if Jesus was going to teach him a lesson about, like, not committing violence and stuff like that, he would have said, like, hey, I had you bring these swords, like, for this reason,
Yeah.
right? I don't ever want you to, like, pick them up again. I don't want you, like, to be violent, right? But that's not what he says, right? It's clearly a very different message, and then he heals the ear,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
And so there's like so basically the short answer, God's not a pacifist.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if it was the recording that we deleted or before, but like God is justified in not being a pacifist because
Yeah.
by definition of being God, you're morally pure.
Yeah.
So if he's causing non-pacifism, like an act of violence, it's probably in a just way, or not probably, it definitely is in a just way for whatever reason.
Right. And there's verses all over the Bible, like especially in Revelations, where it talks about how God is like he's a violent God. Like the main name he's called in the Old Testament is the Lord of Hosts or the Lord of Angel Armies. It's the same translation.
And
or different translation.
in Joshua, I don't think that was brought up earlier either. He has Israelites go into the Promised Land and fight the nations that are there, and it says to teach them war.
Isn't that crazy?
And then he says, "I will go before you," and he causes a bunch of enemies of God to fall into mass confusion where they attack each other. So
Yeah,
God
wild.
is like instituting violence for the purpose of achieving His will, and that's just if you have a problem with that, it's justified because He's God, and these are people who are opposing God,
Right.
and these nations were doing evil, terrible things so much at some point. They went to maybe not the Canaanites and not necessarily those that were occupying the Promised Land immediately, but the nations that came after them, where God also caused violence to befall those people. They were like sacrificing their babies and doing all this terrible stuff.
Yeah.
And it was really immoral. God's like, they need to be judged. This is not
Yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
And that's a good judgment.
Right. It's God coming against evil
Yeah.
and bringing justice, His goodness. Right.
Right. And so sometimes when you come against evil, which is a very godly thing to do, it requires what people would call violence.
Yeah.
Although it might not be morally wrong, for instance, if like someone's attacking your family and you have a gun and you put them down,
Right.
I would say you should hope that they don't die.
Yeah. Of course.
But also when you're trained how to use a gun, they're training you shoot to kill.
Right.
But it's also like protecting the innocent, protecting
Right.
that.
I mean, the point is that we're not supposed to love violence, right? Like
Right.
Proverbs.
You're not supposed
I
to
want to
murder.
say 11:5 says that God hates those who love, or no, it says that
It's Psalms.
those who love violence, no, it's Proverbs 11:5, I'm positive.
Okay.
It says those who love violence, God hates with a passion. Like, he doesn't just hate like that person, he hates people who love violence with a passion, right? So we're not supposed to love violence or like wish for it or want it, right? But there's
Yeah.
lots of times where it's necessary.
Yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
like in Psalms 5 is another place where it says, the arrogant cannot stand in your presence. You hate all who do wrong. You destroy those who tell lies. The bloodthirsty and deceitful.
Yeah.
You, O Lord, detest.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. That sounds kind of violent.
Yeah, and then contrast that with like the God of Revelation, who's talking about just like wiping people out, and like that
Yeah,
he
evil people.
he comes with the sword and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Mhm.
It's wild.
So
Like, he's also like the Prince of Peace, but he also comes with the sword and comes to destroy.
Right,
Like, it's
right.
crazy.
And so the question then is posed, right? Like, okay, God's not necessarily pacifist by any means or stretch of the imagination. So if Christians are supposed to be like Christ, are we supposed to not be pacifist? Or how does the Christian justify a lifestyle that permits violence, even though we're called to love our enemies and forgive those who hurt us and do good to those who persecute us?
Yeah. So I think
So how do we marry those two realities?
I think there are so many more verses where God's commanding us, like we're contrasting who God is and his character and everything he's justified in doing with what he commands us to do, right?
Right.
Like, in all of those instances where God is saying he's coming with a sword, he's coming with his wrath, like when he's unleashing his wrath in a lot of the Old Testament, when he's talking about wrath to come that he's going to unleash, and all these vivid images and descriptive, like linguistics talking about like the very descriptive like violence that he's going to bring.
Yeah.
It's always he's bringing it, right? And there are times where he includes humans in that as well. But most of the time, he's talked about as a God of peace, but also a commanded that like blessed are the feet of those who bring good news, those who bring peace.
Yeah.
Let me see where that verse is. Hold on.
It's a psalm.
No, it's Isaiah 52:7.
Oh, it's Isaiah. It was a poetry book.
How
Oh,
beautiful
that's
on the
nice.
mountains are the feet of those who bring good news, who proclaim peace, right? So we're supposed to be proclaiming peace.
Yeah.
And if we're like in Christ, Christ is peace, we're proclaiming peace. And then it also says that his kingdom is the kingdom of peace, right?
Yeah.
So if Christ is peace and he's teaching us to also be peace, and his kingdom exists in peace, like peace seems to be more of the commanded theme for us.
Yeah.
While violence is also commanded in instances, it seems peace is the dominating factor over that
Right.
thing, right? Because violence doesn't exist in God's kingdom, and God's kingdom is perfect, right? We're not fully in God's kingdom yet, and so we still exist in a world where violence is necessary sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is commanded in the Bible,
Yeah.
right? But I would think that the answer, like for Christians, would be like if you try to live as close to that like Psalms 11:5 verse, to not love violence and to hate it, right? Like, you're gonna be doing pretty good.
Right.
Like, it's gonna be necessary at times, but if you're always examining your heart every morning, like say you're a soldier, right? And like
Yeah.
you have to literally perform violence
Well,
all
and
the
that's
time.
not necessarily a soldier's different, because the people say like, thou shalt not murder. You shouldn't be a soldier, and that's not peaceful. But like, it says thou shalt not murder, but killing is different than murder.
Right, but I'm giving
Right.
an example. Like, being a soldier is a justified violence in most of like
I would
moral
say
people's
in
eyes.
most wars.
Right, I know, but we're talking about like against a pacifist, right? So
Yeah.
I'm saying, if you're a soldier and you wake up every morning, you're a Christian, and you think to yourself, do I love violence? And you're checking your heart and saying like, do I love this? And like, do I want this?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're not in a place where like you're longing for this thing, I would say like you're pretty safe. Like, there's times where we have to go to war. There's a season for everything, right? Like Ecclesiastes says, there's a season to build up, to break down. There's a season for death and life.
Yeah.
Forgot where I was going with that.
Yep.
Oops.
Season for everything.
Yeah, there's a season for everything. So as long as you try to live by that Proverbs verse, I think you'll be like pretty okay.
Yeah.
Like, most of the commands are about being peaceful.
Yeah, and Jesus is peaceful too. Like,
Yeah.
he's the Prince of Peace, and that's not lying, saying like he's a Prince of Peace, but he's going to bring us wrath. It's like God is a Prince of Peace, but he
Yeah.
acquires peace by wrath sometimes, because it's justice. He's also a God of justice as much as he is a
Yeah.
God of peace.
Yep.
And so we need to see that, and as a job of the Christian, the job of the Christian is to obey Christ. And if we see a characteristic in God that is like violent, like, oh, he's coming against evil, so I want to come against evil. Well, it's like, okay, so what does God say to the human then at that point? God says, do good to those who hurt you. So you can't hurt those who hurt you.
Right.
Right? You can hurt those who are hurting the innocent because we're also supposed to defend the widows and the poor and stand up and stuff like that. But you have to obey Christ in the way that you're looking for peace and looking for reconciliation between God and man and you and whoever else you have problems
Right.
with. And you're not supposed to be one to like initiate violence, right? I think it's always like a response to evil, if necessary. It's like the last response to evil. I think that's where violence is in the place of a Christian.
Right.
So
You could bring out violence to fight like an evil thing that's happening that's already violent, right?
Yeah.
Or a threat of violence.
Right. Like if there's
I
a
would
mass
agree with that.
shooter in a mall and you have a gun too, you put
Right.
it down. You have to.
Right.
The God's not going to be mad at you for that.
Right.
But you can't be actively looking for like, wake up every day like,
Yeah.
do I get to kill someone? Like then you love violence and that's
Right.
a problem.
Right.
So it's God's place to judge and bring wrath. And it's our place to obey. And what God has
Yeah.
told us to do is to be people of peace as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I'd say only use violence at the very last resort.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on pacifism
Yeah, me too. I think we agree.
and whatnot.
Yeah. That like by all means try to be as peaceful as you can.
Yeah.
And always checking your heart. Do I love violence? Am I longing for this thing? Like does it like excite me more than it should?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And always checking your heart, but knowing that there may come a time where God calls you or you're called to defend something or to come against evil in a technically violent way.
Right.
Which won't exist after evil doesn't exist anymore, right?
Right. And the new heavens, new earth
Yeah.
will be fine.
Millennia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there'll be one more war. That's
Yeah.
fun.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, right, later podcast.
Well, this has been a very interesting episode with all the
technical
audio
difficulties and
quality and
I
yeah.
am stressed.
Sorry guys. Hopefully next time we'll have like the mics figured out, everything figured out.
I'm just gonna call Amazon.
We might not have this awesome lighting again, but the lighting's been
But
fun.
soon we're gonna buy our own lights.
Yeah.
Because you
Once we get enough
lovely
money.
people who watch the show have supported us, and
Yep.
so we have a little bit of monies we can put towards lights or stickers or something
Yep.
like that. Oh, also, are we trying to wrap
Yeah.
up right now? Is that where?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we got like you know the link in bio, you know where to find that also.
The
but
link in
now
bio.
there's a Patreon link there,
Mm-hmm.
so you can go to our link in bio and click on the Patreon. There's 2 tiers
Yep.
that you can support the show with. It's a $3 tier, not too much, and get a sticker
Easy.
and a thank you. We just want to give back to
It's a
you.
cup of coffee a month.
Yeah. Yeah, we just want to like $3 a month. We want to be able to like say thank you, get a sticker and whatnot, and just kind of show some support to the show. And we're like super grateful for it. And then there's a $5 tier where you get stickers and also get added to our close friends list on Instagram. So you get more content, behind the scenes stuff
Yep.
and whatnot. More tiers to come. Maybe we'll do some free will tiers if people
Yeah.
want to.
Some extra shows, some extra stuff like that. Some like
Behind the scenes.
some coming on the podcast stuff with a video and things like that. There'll be some cool stuff.
Maybe if we have like interviews with like really famous people, we'll make it like a
Exclusive.
$15 tier, exclusive,
Yeah.
like if you get extra content. But
It'll be cool.
yeah.
But if you want to help us out, like literally, like people have gotten saved from like the conversations we've had on Instagram,
Rededicate their
from
life.
the show and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like we've reached a lot of people. If you want to like be a part of that, for the however many of you that are still listening, like God is really, I think, using this.
Yeah.
And it's really special. Like,
And it's just a start, you know?
Yeah, by no like part of our own, like the Lord, like we one day just sat down and like prayed, like Lord, we want you to have this and like move as much as you want in this show, and it started like actually taking off
Right.
in different directions.
Yeah, God's
like, as
been
soon as we
real
started
faithful.
praying. So God wants to do things with it, and we're rolling with Him as long as He wants to do things with it. So
Yeah, and this is like by no means just like just this is not it. We're not like peaking like we made a joke earlier,
Yeah.
right? Like I genuinely think that this podcast can go so far to the point to reach like thousands of people a week.
yeah,
Because I personally feel like so spiritually good about it. Like I remember like when we first started podcasting, and I just made the decision when we talked about it. We made the decision to start a podcast. Something in my spirit just clicked, and I was like, "That's right, man. That is
Cool.
like that's it." And so I just have like so many desires that God would use this podcast to reach thousands of people for His name's sake and His glory, and to bring those who have had like tough questions not
Yeah.
answered and thus walked away come back to Christ.
Yeah.
You know, and God's given us a ministry of reconciliation that says that in Ephesians, and so this is just a way that God has given us the means of doing that.
Yeah.
And so if you want to support and be part of the means of doing that, you know, we're all in this together, and it's kind of like if we're all a car, like we might be like the tires on the ground doing things, but like whoever supports the ministry is like the
Right.
fuel in the tank of that.
right.
And then God's like the engine, the GPS, and the driver.
Yeah.
The Trinity and most important parts.
Yep.
But yeah, so we just really appreciate all you guys who stuck
Yeah.
with us, and all you guys first time listeners, like thank you so much.
Yep, we love you guys. Thanks for checking in.
All right, well,
It's been great.
I guess I don't really have anything else to say.
Adios, amigos. See you next time.